Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Bhante Pesala from Labunuru Kanda Forest Monastery, which is located in Sri Lanka. So here it is early in the morning in Sri Lanka, but I know in USA, New Jersey, and other areas it is late in the evening. And let's just wait for a while to others to join this discussion. Keep waiting for a while, you know. Uh, Okay, good evening again to everyone, and warmly welcome everyone to the Empty Route Monastery. Again, I am Bhante Pesala from Labunuru Kanda Forest Monastery from Sri Lanka, and I warmly welcome every one of you for today's Dhamma talk. And uh, before we begin our topic today, let's pay our homage to the Samma Sambuddha. නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස. May my homage to the Blessed One, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear Dhamma friends, today, as we have planned, we are going to talk about 10 meritorious deeds, which is in Buddhism. And before we jump into that subject, and if we talk about the teachings about the Buddha, uh, it is known as Vibhajyavada. So there is a beautiful term called Vibhajyavada. The meaning of that Vibhajyavada is that, when Buddhism provides answers to our questions, it depends on the person. If you ask about how to become enlightened from from the Buddha, at that time the way of answering your questioning by the Buddha is different according to your uh, temperament, inner temperament. Suppose if you ask this question, when the person how I become enlightened, so at that time Buddha just consider your inner temperament, and according to your inner temperament, Buddha explained how should you progress, how should you practice this Dhamma. So, for an example, if you ask about dana, so which is comes under today's topic, and this that is uh, one of the meritorious deeds out of those 10. So dana is very important thing, and sometime one may feel that dana or the giving is not help for one to achieve nibbana, but actually it is not like that. It will definitely help you to become enlightened. So uh, as a lay person, the one who practice dana, not only for the laity, also it is valuable for the monastics too. One practice dana, definitely it will help you uh, to become enlightened. So uh, to make you further enlightened about this matter, suppose uh, if you take the noble eightfold path, we cannot find a term, we cannot find dana in the noble eightfold path. So because of that, one may think that dana is not important thing. But if you take the second step of the Noble Eightfold Path, it is known as uh, right concepts or Samma Sankappa. So, under right concepts, it is known as Nekkamma Sankappa. Nekkamma mean the concept of renunciation. So, when one practicing dana, he comes under that. It is uh, he's practicing dana is definitely help us to reduce our uh, tanha. So in that way, uh, by just seeing the surface of Buddhism, one might think that, as I explained you, dana is not an important thing, but it is really an important thing. So in in that way, we have to understand. So that is why the Buddhism is known as Vibhajyavada. Vibhajyavada means, you know, if one practice the path of Nibbana as a layperson, he get the different answer, and also if one practices as a monastic, he get the different answer. So in that way, we have to understand. And if we focus more on to the dana, uh, there are three ways of practicing dana. So before move that, and there's one thing. Dana is generally, if you understand about dana, that is the activity that mean that we just give something to others. That is known as dana. But in Buddhism, dana is something special. Like it is not just something giving. You are offering with honor, offering something to with respect to the others. That is because the by practicing dana, you will get the benefits out of dana, and eventually it will help you to gain the liberation. So with that purpose, you are giving dana. So that's why in Buddhism, dana is bit important. And there are three ways of practicing dana. The first one is known as amisa puja, and the second one is known as thanksgiving, and also the third one is known as third way of practicing dana is uh, pratipatti puja. So the first one is amisa puja, mean generally, as laity for monastics, laity offering so many things, especially four requisites, food, robes, clothing, and accommodation, as well as medicines. So those are known as Amisa puja. Amisa mean just materialistic things we can offer. And the as the community of Sangha, there is no way of earning materialistic gains by because they are bhikkhu doesn't a bhikkhu doesn't allow to handle money, so he cannot earn those things. So by just going the arms round, uh, he has to depend on what the people offer to us. So in that way, the people who are offering dana, the purpose of offering alms to the bhikkhu, that means uh, they are providing four things, four facilities to the community of Sangha. So those are known as Ayu, Varna, Sapa, Bala, and Prajna. Ayu mean you are providing age. By consuming the food, the community of Sangha gets the age because he can maintain his life because of the food. Without food, we cannot do meditation. So you are offering that capacity to the Sangha, and you are providing Varna mean, we practice noble qualities and our just the complexion of our skin, and those are known as Varna. So you are offering Varna. And Sapa mean you are offering Sapa Sukha, mean comfortability. Without food, we cannot have a comfortable life, and we cannot do meditation. We cannot practice the path. So by offering dana, you providing the comfortability. That is called Sukha. And Bala mean energy. Without having food, we cannot uh, urge, or we cannot have the determination, we cannot have the energy to practice the Dhamma path. So that is in that way, when you offering dana, you provide bala, mean the energy, and finally the wisdom. To do, to understand this subtle Dhamma, we need to have, we need to do the vipassana. So without food, we cannot do that. So you are offering, uh, by giving dana, you are offering uh, the panya also, the way of panya. And by providing dana, in that way you are helping disciples to gain the nibbana. So because of that, as Buddhist, we really understand about the effect of karma, no? So when you do something, you will get the return out of that activity. So when you are allowing community of sangha to become enlightened by offering dana, so uh, as a result, in future lives you will get the opportunity to gain the enlightenment. You get the chance in the future lives. So if you go through the uh, teachings of the Buddha, there are so many examples. We could see that, during the previous existences, uh, one innocent man, offered something with the heartfulness of Saddha towards the Buddha, and because of that thing, he had the luxurious life, so many existences, and eventually he was fortunate enough to be born in the Buddha's dispensation, and he was able to listen the Dhamma of the Buddha, and they have achieved the Nibbana. So in that way, it is mentioned in so many places in the Pali Canon, throughout the Pali Canon. So that is how we practice materialistic thing. And the second one is known as thanksgiving. That is also kind of a dana. Thanksgiving, that means, they we are performing daily vandana, and as well as uh, we just uh, reciting sutra, we just reciting pirit. So in that way we are just reminding about the qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. It is called as in Pali tuti puja. That means we are just uh, reminding the qualities of the Buddha. That is also kind of a dana. That is the second one. And the third one is known as Pratipatti Puja. Pratipatti Puja means it is very important. One is diligently practicing the path of Dhamma, both monastic and as a laity. One is practicing so urgently, and with so much of diligence, one's practicing the path of the Dhamma. And that is known as that is known as Pratipatti Puja. And uh, in in the Pitaka, in the Pali Canon, it is mentioned that if one practicing more diligently the path of Nibbana, the Buddha said, that is the most important offering one can done on behalf of the Buddha. Our great teacher Samma Sambuddha is not expecting the materialistic or worldly puja to him, but is really admiring. If one practicing hard of the path of the Dhamma, then really Buddha appreciated that. He is the one who truly offering the Buddha. So in that way, we can practice dana, and before doing any kind of that kind of meritorious deeds, your mind has to be fulfilled with wisdom. So to get the more effect of the dana, our mind should have three basic causes. Suppose you may have heard this famous Dhammapada stanza. This is very famous. Why I'm saying that? Because within this stanza, we can explain whole Buddhism. It said, Sabbhavapa Sakaranang Kusala Supasampada Sachitta Pariyodapanang Etam Buddhan Sasana. Avoiding all the unwholesome activities, that is called Sabbhavapa Sakarana. Kusala Supasampada, producing, practicing all the wholesome activities, and also Sachitta Pariyodapana. Cleansing the mind is it is the most important. And if we take these three factors together, that is simply known as Buddhism. And this is the teachings by all the Buddhas. And our mind has a tendency of performing unwholesome activities. That is because our mind has three basic unwholesome causes. Those are known as root causes, or else in Pali, Mula Hetu. So those are known as Lobha, Dvesa, Moha. That means greed, hatred, and delusion. And to have a meritorious deeds and to have a wholesome deeds, we should practice the uh, wholesome roots in our mind. So those are stand against the lobha desa moha, known as alobha advesa amoha. Against the lobha, alobha means against greed. We should practice non greed, and against the dosa or the hatred, we should practice non hatred, as well as against the moha mean the delusion, we should practice non delusion. So non hatred and non-greed, non-delusion has to be there beforehand, before we doing any kind of meritorious deeds. So suppose person giving dana without knowing the meaning of offering dana. Suppose uh, if you take our home, we worship, we do vandana, we worship the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. So our children, by just coming with us, by just following us, they also worship. But in a child's mind, he doesn't have the idea of doing that. He just following the parents and doing worshipping and doing vandana. He doesn't know the purpose of doing vandana. So in that case, in his mind, two wholesome conditions arises. That is alobha, because while offering something, while doing vandana, he doesn't have lobha, as well as dosa. He have the alobha mean non greed and non hatred, but he doesn't know the purpose of doing that. So since that his mind doesn't have the amoha mean the non delusion, because he doesn't know the purpose. So his that activity uh, gives him some kind of merits, but those are not uh, completely complete. He doesn't get the complete merits. So that's why the so those type of merit, when one perform dana without much understanding in the future lives as well as in this life, he get the results, but those results are not much uh, full fulfill. I mean, not much of he get the less amount of things, like because his mind having only the true wholesome causes. So that's why understanding of the purpose of doing these kind of activity has to be there. When you suppose in Abhidhamma, it is said if one perform meritorious deeds without much understanding, without wisdom, that activity is known as Dvihetuka Kusala. Dvihetuka means two rooted wholesome activity, because it having only two causes, as I explained. So that is not a much powerful meritorious deeds. And if one having a three root wholesome conditions in the mind, three root mean, as I said, alobha, advesa, and amoha. When we are offering something, when we are giving dana, at that time we don't have uh, lobe. I mean, without by having greed, we cannot offer something. So it must be alobe, mean non-greed, and uh, by offering something, there must not be have. We don't have. We should not have the hatred. Instead, we should have the non-hatred, as well as the finally, as I said, non-delusion. So when one having the three wholesome cause in the mind, one perform and meritorious deeds, uh, that is known as tree rooted wholesome activity. So one can, if one perform this kind of activity, it will produce him, it will give him back, you know, much benefits. So in that way, uh, if one having that knowledge, if we perform any kind of activity, dana, sila, bhavana, or anything. Dana mean, offering, and also sila mean practicing morality, and bhavana, he can gain merits at any kind of activity. And those are the three types of dana. But you know furthermore, and as I in the beginning I explained you, the Dhamma is known as vibhajyavad. So if we go through only the Pali canon, there are three ways of performing meritorious deeds. Only three. Those are known as dana, mean, as I said, offering, and sila mean morality, and bhavana mean meditation. Meditation is not the term that, uh, it is not broadly expressing the true meaning of the bhavana, but people mostly used as meditation. So those three activities can be seen in the Tripitaka. But again, these three activities can be further divided into 10 activities. Suppose, as I explained, I told you about how to perform dana. And in this teachings, uh, if 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 we think dana is something that we should offer, we should give to someone. That is the, if someone elaborate dana as like that, then if we take a pure poor one in this Buddha's dispensation, and he cannot do dana back because he doesn't have much things to offer. But it is not the case. Sometimes there are further two more ways of practicing dana, that is called uh, patti dana. Patti dana mean, you can perform dana, and by by giving dana you get the uh, merits out of the dana, and you can share that merit to others. Suppose you can perform a dana, and you can share with your friends, with your family members, those who are not contributed to it. And by hearing them, they will be delighted about your activity. So the one who was not able to attend the dana, by just happying about the dana, he can gain the merits. So that is known as bhakti dana. So that's why uh, ev- after every dana, we share the merits that we gain through the dana to the devas, as well as our deceased family members, deceased relatives, late relatives. So that is the way of sharing dana. That is called bhakti dana. By doing so, people might think we might not get much merits out of that. But the Buddha said, if you are lighting a candle, when you are in the darkness, you get the kind of light. And if you can multiply the number of candles, then the amount of light also multiply. Similarly, when you share your merits with others, you won't reduce your amount of merits, but instead you will multiplying your amounts of merits. So that is way of practicing another dana. So this bhakti dana, because of that, can be practiced by anyone. Suppose a poor man, he doesn't have anything to offer, but he sees the good friends, they are going to the temples, and they are going to the communities, going to several places and doing wholesome deeds. No, but he doesn't have any capacity. But by seeing that, he can become happy. So that's why in the to practice meritoriously, the most important thing is, you know our happiness in the mind. That's why the merits is known as, in the Buddhism, hadayam punati iti punyam. That means the amount of happiness which is in your mind, that is known as uh, the merits. And suppose if one offering dana, because that person doesn't know the true meaning of dana, others are practicing dana, so because of that I am also practicing dana. But when he is giving that dana, he doesn't have happiness in the mind. but with him there is another person, let's just suppose, and he is offering nothing, but he can become happy because of that dana. By my friend is doing this thing, I am really happy. But if you take the amount of merits, the one who is more happy, he gets more merits. So that is the nature of the meritorious deeds in Buddha's dispensation. It depends on not what you physically do or physically offer. It depends what you mentally and spiritually things. That's why I said, before do any kind of meritorious deeds, we should possess three wholesome causes: alobha, advesa, amoha. So that is one way of doing dana. And another way of doing dana is pattanumodana. That means receiving merits. So receiving merits mean if someone come to you and remind you about his meritorious deed. Suppose he has done a dana to a monastery or somewhere, then one friend come to you and remind about you. That time you have to be happy, and you should appreciate him. In that way, you can do pattanumodana. That is also one way of practicing dana. So just imagine, uh, by if one knows these things, he can easily be practiced. As bhikkhus, we experience, lay people come to us and come to the bhikkhu sangha and offering so many things. Sometimes we may not have anything to offer to them, but by seeing their faces, by seeing their activities, we really become happy from inside within us. So we are not offering something, but by becoming happy, we also get the merits. So that is the way of practicing dana. And I have heard some saying that dana will not help you to bhavana, but it's a wrong understand. As I said, it can be included. Dana can be included in the samma sankappa. If you further elaborate the samma sankappa, that known as the concept of renunciation. So the one who practice dana, he can detach from the physical things. So that will definitely help him to detach from the defilement. So in that way, it is really assisting to attain the nibbana. And also, you may have heard there are 40 subjects of kammattanas. 40 objects of meditation. 40. Out of one, there is one called Chaganupassana. Chaganupassana means one can do bhavana even by offering dana. If one can totally contemplate the benefits of the dana, then he's doing a bhavana. So just imagine, in that way, if you practice dana, even practicing dana, you can do bhavana. So, and it will directly help you to gain the enlightenment, to attain the nibbana. So that is how dana explained. And the second one is known as sila, morality. And it is fourfold. You may have heard already. Practicing the precepts, that is known as patimokkha sila. That is known as that is the one step of the sila. And the second part is indriya samvara sila. That means when you are restraining your faculties, six sense faculties, when you are doing any kind of activity during the days, when you are living. So that is also comes under sila. That is the second part. And thirdly, it is said Jagriyana, okay, mean, as bhikkhus, we should, in the night, daytime, always we have to maintain that bhavana. So that is known as Jagriyana, okay. And also the fourth time, Pratisannita Pratisannita Sile. Prati mean, when we are consuming our uh, requisites like robes, foods, and accommodation, as well as the medicine. All of the time that we are consuming, that we are dealing with them, we have to be very careful. We have to be mindful on that. That means, suppose when we are eating something, we are our expectation of eating something is not just to uh, fu- fulfill our taste buds, but just to uh, considering the benefits out of the food. I am taking this food just to maintain my body, not just to increase my thirsty or the craving. By having that purpose, we should consume all the requisites, not only the food, but as well as when we are wearing the robe, also there's a purpose. We should reflect on that. And when we are in the accommodation, that time also we should reflect the reflect the purpose of staying in the accommodation. So that's why the bhikkhu doesn't need much comfortable. If he provided with the roof, and if he can stay uh, without being subject to rain, that is more than enough for him as accommodation. And when medicine, we are not taking all the types of medicine. If the illness is too high, too difficult to bear it up, so at that time we get some medicine. And while medicine, also we think, I am taking this medicine just to maintain my body, otherwise I cannot do bhavana and do my practices. By having that purposes, we just consume the requisites. So that is known as practice anicca sila. That is the fourth step of practicing. That is also kind of a sila, the morality. And here, in according more than that, there is another way of practicing sila. So that is known as apachayana. Apachayana means respectfulness and honoring the suitable one. Suppose when you are at home, you have to do respect your elders, your parents, your elder cousins. You have to respect. And when you are in the workplace, if someone senior to you, you have to give them the due respect. As well as when you are in the school, you have to respect your teachers. So you know that in Buddhism, it is also comes under sila, morality. That will eventually help you to gain the enlightenment even. So as bhikkhus, we should respect the elders, veneration. So that's a famous English quotes: give respect and take respect. So if we are expecting respect, we have to respect to others. So in that way, that is also comes under sila. So it will definitely help us not only gain the enlightenment, but to create a pleasant environment among the society. That is also important there. And the other thing is the other thing is known as Veyavacha. Veyavacha mean, as a bhikkhu, initially, by just seeing the surface looking at the bhikkhu, might one might think that bhikkhus always has to do the meditation, and by sitting in a seclusion, he has to do meditation. That is the wrong kind of understanding. So as a bhikkhu, we have to do daily chores, like from the moment of arising from the day, we have to clear up our accommodations, and we have to do some chores in the alms hall when we are going back to the alms round. In that way also, we have to do some chores throughout the day. So in that way, those activities shouldn't be hinder our path of practicing. Actually, it doesn't hinder. So those are the parts of the sila. So that's why it's important to practice in sila. In that way, we practice sila. That will really benefit you. And for monks also having some chores. And but as lady, you may have so many things in the home, and you have to, as a mother, you have to cook. As a father, you have to perform a job, and you have to look after your children. You have to look after your parents, and you have to work hard in the office. So at that time, you are doing a chores. So if you know the benefits, if you think the benefits, because you are working hard, because of your hard workings, so many people getting benefits: your children, your family members, your parents, your subordinates in the office, they all benefited out of your hard work. So that is also comes under sila. Just imagine the way of practicing sila. So in that way, in that three ways, you can practice sila. As I said, I explained the general explanation of sila by expressing four terms, and by practicing apajayana as well as vayavacchi, you can practice sila, and that will really give you the opportunity to gain the enlightenment. And there is another subject of kammatana known as another subject of kammatana, sila anusati. One can reflect the noble qualities of the sila, and even at that time uh, he can do meditation even by just thinking about the sila. Then as a mother, as I said, uh, she works hard. If she think that I am working hard, because of that my friends, my children, my husband, my family members, all are getting benefits, so he become happy, and he just reflect the qualities of the sealer. And as a monk, I there are so many benefits, when one practicing sealer, it is said he get the materialistic thing as a consequence, as a vipaka, and he will be famous among the community that he's a good one, he's doing his uh, work to others, for others benefit, he work hard, and he can go to a community with confidence. And the one who practicing sila in this way, at the last moment, if we happen to die, he can face the death confidently uh, without a dull mind. He can become so aware because he know that his life is pure, and he can face the death easily, because uh, because of his sila. And finally, after the death, he will be reborn in the celestial realms. The Buddha said there are five benefits out of the sila. So that is the importance of sila, and it will really beneficial you, help you to gain even enlightenment. Enlightenment is the sila is the first step. So that's why the sila has broad spectrum, broad area that we have to be aware of. So that is sila. And the thirdly, we come to the bhavana. And bhavana, as all of the people aware, uh, it is samatha and vipassana. Samatha means just practicing the equilibrium or the one pointedness. There are so many meanings for the bhavana, the samatha bhavana, and in that way one can practice bhavana. And that is called as samatha, just to focus on the one pointedness of the mind. And most people translate it as concentration. Mm, that doesn't give us the exact meaning of bhavana. And that is one way. And the other ways of practicing bhavana is like doing vipassana. So that then, by most people know only those two things, they are known as bhavana. So they think to perform bhavana we need to go in seclusion and stand, or just in the jungles, in the monasteries, only we can do bhavana. But that is a wrong kind of concept. I'm not going to explain you about these things, because since you are in the path of the Dhamma, you know about these samatha and vipassana. But here additionally I would like to bring up one important point. uh, you know it is one of the best meritorious deeds. Doing bhavana, it gives you much merit. And in one occasion the Buddha said to the Mahanama, he's a family member of our great teacher from the Sakya clan. And suppose if one person offer 300 baskets of alms to the sangha in the morning, and one uh, just sorry not the 300, 100 basket full of rice he offers to the sangha in the morning. And one the same person offer the same 100 of basket full of offerings to in the evening, in the noon as well as in the evening. So throughout the day he could offer 300 basket full of rice. And there is another one, uh, in the morning he just practice metta, or the it is known as friendliness as well as universal benevolence. So many meanings of the metta, but the metta. And if one practice metta morning, early in the morning, only just uh, it says the time, the the amount of time he's practicing metta. Just if you suppose, if you smell a fragrance of a flower, it will take a very less amount of time. The one who practices the metta in the morning, similar to that time, and in the noon as well, as he just practicing that time method, and in the evening also he practicing the method of less amount, during, that time only, very few minutes. He is the one who gets more merits than the one who offered dana throughout the day, the Buddha said to the Mahana. So that's why doing bhavana you can gain much merit. And as well as when you do vipassana, when you do vipassana, vipassana is the, the powerful way of getting merit, because vipassana is completely targeting the nibbana, and it is a very noble and utmost important purpose. So that's why it's providing you much merit. And other than that, listening dhamma, that is called dhamma savana. Now you are doing a meritorious deeds. By listening them also you are gaining much merits. That's why the Buddha said, Sabbadanan, Dhammadana, Jinati. Amongst all the danas, all the givings, the offering of Dhamma, offering of the teaching is the utmost important. So that's why even when one listening to the Dhamma, it is also kind of a bhavana. So people think that no, bhavana can be done only by standing and by in the meditative posture. It is a wrong understanding. When listening also you can do bhavana. That's why in if you take Vimuttayatana Sutta, it is one way of liberation. One might become enlightened just listening Dhamma. That's one way of liberation. That is why it gives you much merits by listening Dhamma. It's also kind of meritorious deeds. It will give you much merit. And the other one is known as Dhamma Desana. Now I am doing Dhamma Desana as a bhikkhu, and that is I am also doing bhavana. That is also kind of a bhavana. Giving sermons, doing sermons also kind of a uh, meritorious deeds as well as bhavana. It is also one of the way of liberation. In the Vimuttayatana Sutta, while preaching sermon, while preaching Dhamma, one might become enlightened. So that is also kind of a bhavana. And the last one, Dittha Jukam, the 10th one. Dittha Jukam mean, suppose a disciple is there, he doesn't practice much bhavana, but he is always investigating the Dhamma, and he's always questioning about the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. What is the purpose of appearing the Buddha to the world? What is the purpose of practicing Dhamma? What is the purpose of appearing the Sangha, community of Sangha? He just question, and thereby he gains the knowledge, and he gains the right view. Because when you question only, uh, you can reveal the hidden meanings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. So thereby you can correct your right view. You can gain the right view. Dittuju, that is called as Dittujukam. That is also kind of a bhavana. There are some disciples we could see in the society. They are not specifically practicing any kind of bhavana, but he always questioning. He has the diligence. He has the interest towards learning Dhamma. So he is also, practicing bhavana. In that way also he getting lots of merits out of the bhavana. So that's what I mean. Those are the 10 activities as Buddhist we must practice. And then if you go through carefully these things, you begin to know that there is no specific place for doing bhavana. Even at home, even at workplace, at anywhere you can do this practicing. You can practice this path of Nibbana. So with that, I've come to the question and answer session, and I really admire if you ask questions, and so there are few questions being asked. Bhante, one can derive the benefit from a dana someone else has offered by self anumodana, isn't it? By simply joining that meritorious act in his own mind, it's a kind of rejoicing, I think. Yeah, that is really true. The word anumodana, it explain everything. Anumodana mean modana mean anumodana word. It is grammatically in Pali. If we take modati mean anumodana mean modati. Modati mean we are becoming happy. Anu mean according to what the other has performed, we get happy. So that's why that is also kind of merits. If so, that's why in the beginning I said sometimes there may be occasions that we may not have any chance of doing merits or any kind of dana, but others are performing dana. So according to them, by just observing that activity, we become happy. So at that time, we get much merit by just witnessing the noble activity. That is called as anumodana. That is just sharing the merits that they have done. So it will really bring you the rejoicing in your mind. So when the amount of rejoicing arises in your mind, that is known as merits. So hope I answer this question, and thank you, Bhante, for this. Now you remind me to be in the moment and to be thankful. And again, Bhante is samatha for calming and purification of the mind, so that the person can maintain selective thinking and keep off the non-meritorious or bad thoughts. Is samatha for calming and purification? Yeah, that is also, sometimes, without vipassana, without having the true vipassana knowledge, when the bad thoughts or the unwholesome thoughts arises in our mind, sometimes we may not know how to deal with those bad activities. At that time, uh, we can do samatha. Like suppose uh, if you are if our mind always getting the anger, so at that time you may not know about the method, but instead you focus on the breath, or just anapanasati. So at that time you do kind of a samatha, and thereby you can just you practice samatha, but you just subdue the anger. So in that way, you can just temporarily avoid the unwholesome nature in the mind. So that is just one way, but if you want to completely eradicate the hatred which arises in the mind, you need to do the vipassana, and you need to see the reality of the person who uh, you against with your anger arise with the person. You need to understand the completely realize the nature of your thought. You need to understand that thought as anger, it's a chetasika, or just a mental thoughts, and it is having the nature of anicca. And the person who you are anger with, that person also is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. By doing vipassana, you have to understand, but temporarily just practicing samatha, you can remove your bad thoughts in your mind. Hope that I answered the question, and if there's anything that difficult, not clear in that question, you can again ask something on that question. Hi Bhante, thank you for your wonderful lecture. If one does Patipatti Puja even imperfectly and occasionally, even if you can't sustain it, would it create merit? Or is merit lost if not sustained? No, never. It is, that Buddha said, the one who knows Dhamma, and he know that something there is in the Dhamma, in this path of Dhamma, we can have the uh, true benefit. You can we can Our life can be get all the success all the happiness that we expect. But as a lay person, he may not have much time to practice Dhamma. And time to time, he get the chance of practicing Dhamma. So at that time, he's getting the benefit because he's having the right view, but he personally he cannot practice. So the Buddha said, uh, the one who practice without knowledge, he's the one who wasting the resources. Suppose if you are going to create, if you are going to create a home, just build a home and if you don't know how to build it properly, and without any plan, without any knowledge, if you build the home, you can do it very elegantly, you can do it very interestingly, but you don't know you don't know how to do it. At that time you just wasting your resources. But there is another one, he know how to build a home nicely, build a house nicely, but he doesn't do it. But he have the enough resources, but once he get the enough resources, he begin to do the construction part. At that time he can, without wasting any resources, he can create that building perfectly. Similarly, the one who has the knowledge of the Dhamma, sometimes he may not have much time to take, but he know, I have to do this, I have to practice this. He's the one actually who's getting much merits out of uh, these understanding. He might timely, he might not get the time as you explained, but with the time that once he get the time, he just try to forget all the troubles which he is facing. Try to practice, try to do pratipatti according to the Buddha, by practicing sila, samadhi, and prajna. So in that way also he sustained the merit and it doesn't hinder your progress. Hope I answered the question. Bhante, when you say we need to feel happy when we make an offering in order to receive the full merit, does it need to be at the exact moment you offer it? Can you acknowledge that you have? No, there are three stages of happying about the incident. In Pali, it is said, "Pubbeva dana sumono." Mean, suppose you are going to give an alms in future, and from the moment the thought arise in your mind, that is the time you begin to get the merits. Because from the moment that thoughts arises in your mind, you begin to think that you are planning on your mind, I am going to give that dana in that day into that monastery or in that person, and I am using this kind of thing. I'm going to contribute my this friend and that friend. All of the time you are producing merits because your mind, out of the three doors of the Kamma, both mind and verbal and physical, the powerful is the mind. So sometimes you haven't done the merits yet, but from your mind you are planning, and since you are getting much merits, and when you at the time you offer, you know that time also you can be happy about your activity. And even after offering, you can just recollect your activities. I have done this much of dana. So then at that time also you become happy. So when you think about your past wholesome karmas, your mind become purified. And in that three moment, before you give the dana, the moment of giving dana, after that dana, you need to consider, you need to be happy about your uh, activities. Actually the amount of merits will be decided, not the thing that you offer, not the time that you offer, but the amount of happiness arises in your mind. It doesn't matter even before the dana, even at the time when you are giving dana, even after the dana. If your mind is happy, uh, according to the happiness of the mind, it decides the amount of merits in your mind. Hope I answered the question. done a meritorious act and maybe rejoice later at the memory of good offering. Sometimes families get very stressed out at Katina, for example, and you might have some dosa moha when you offer. So that is a true factor because that has happened even in the Buddha's time. Uh, when one organizing Katina, it's a it's a huge task for him, and that time it is so hard to maintain the calm and quiet mind to become happy because it's a responsibility. But it is a good thing, even the Buddha's time, our chief patron of our great teacher, you may have heard the household Anathapindika, to create that monastery, Jetavanaramaya, the famous temple of Buddhism, he spent more than 44 crores of gold coins. Just imagine the amount of money that he expend on behalf of the Dana. But at the time, he's so busy with works and he was unable to, fully dedicated the mind on the event. And there was another poor beggar like person. He didn't have any kind of money and he didn't offer anything to him because he was beggar. He was maintaining his life just to begging things from the others, but he was truly happy about the activity which has performed by the another Pindika. And in the uh, commentaries, or as well as in the Apadana, means the characters of the person. Venerable Mahamoggalana, with his psychic powers, he used to go to the hells and he explained by returning to the earth to the monks and people. He explained the suffering, the level of suffering which is in the hells, as well as he explained the level of happiness as devas, uh, how they get the benefits out of the good deeds. So one time, this Venerable Mogdallana visiting in the Deva world, he observed a very beautiful two palaces. One is created out of the gold, and one is out of the silver. The golden color palace is the most elegant one, exquisite one. And uh, the whenever Mogdallan was asking from the devas the reason, what is the why these two palaces appeared. And at the time Buddha said, uh, the silver colored palace appeared on behalf of the Anathapindika, the one who has expended 54 crores of gold coins. And the beautified, the most beautiful one, the golden color palace, is just appeared on behalf of the innocent beggar that I explained. Because while offering happening, that the monastery offering is happening, the one who is the beggar is truly being happy, truly happy with that incident. So because of that, he get that golden color palace in the heaven. So that's what it said. Like, the amount of merits is decided not with what you offer, but the mindset that you have. The amount of happiness will decide your amount of merits. So hope that I answered your question. So those are the questions that we receive. I think there are no more further questions. So with that, we will just wrap up the sermon today for today, and let's do the anumodana. That means we just, as I explained, we just share the merits and we just uh, sh- uh, you know uh, do our sharing to do necessities, especially uh, the devas who expect to receive and partake these merits. May they receive these merits, and with these merits may they gain the happiness, and ultimately they gain the ultimate bliss of Nibbhana. එත්තාවතා චම්මේහි සම්පදම් පුඤ්ඤ සම්පදං සබ්බේ දේවා අනුමෝදන්තු සබ්බ සම්පත්ති සිද්ධියා සබ්බේ භූතා අනුමෝදන්තු සබ්බ සම්පත්ති සිද්ධියා සබ්බේ සත්තා අනුමෝදන්තු සබ්බ සම්පත්ති සිද්ධියා. And as well as I would like to remind especially my teachers and especially the empty cloud monastery crowd behind the stages. There are so many dedications were going on. So all those one who have dedicated to these noble events, may they receive these merits, and also the departed one, may they receive these merits, and all of them. And also, I would like to remind all of you, those who attend to this sermon as well as not attended, every sentient beings may receive these merits. And while these merits, as well as the infinite noble triple gem qualities, may all of the beings be well, be happy in this life as well as in the future lives. And finally, all of us will be able to gain the final bliss of Nibbana by understanding this Dhamma. So, with that, I would like to wrap up today's sermon to by wishing you all noble triple gems as well as the well-being and the blissfulness to your lives. That was our night to everyone.